Meeting of the Bellingham Select Board. This is our annual budget review meeting. We have previously met with the fire department. And today, we have scheduled between 9 and 11 o'clock today. Various departments, some of, will go through quickly, some will take a little longer, and we have members of the FinCom as well who will contribute to the discussion. And with that, the 9 o'clock portion may turn over to the CFO and town administrator.
All right, so we started work on this, as you know, very early this year. We started in early November in large part because Heidi hadn't joined us until the beginning of January. So definitely worked diligently to get the budgets out, ask the departments to get them in early in December, so we have plenty of time to really work through it. And Heidi joined us in January and started working with us. So what you have today is a balanced budget, which is what's required of the board, obviously, to forward on to the finance committee. Some of the things that it does do is it protects our core services, leaves little room for new services, positions, or programs, and we'll talk through some of those. I'll just give a very brief overview because I know the departments are here and we want to allow them to present their budgets. It does not use reserves to fund the budget, which is important. If you remember 4 or 5 years ago, we hit a point where we had to use stabilization money, we had to use capital improvement money in order to balance the budget. That's not the case this year. The general operating budget increases by about 3.58%. If you look at the budget summary, which is one of the first tabs in the budget book, you'll see that the levy limit, what we're projecting by way of Proposition 2.5 will increase by $1,332,000 approximately. New growth, we're estimating at just over $1 million. So total new taxes to the town, what we're estimating is $2,371,929. So obviously that's an estimate. That's an increase in the levy of 4.5%. 2.5 from Proposition 2.5, and the balance, obviously, new growth that we see around town. And that is the maximum allowed to be raised. When you look at other revenue sources, local receipts, essentially we're reducing our estimate just marginally there. The Department of Revenue looks hard at what we estimate for local receipts because they want to make sure that towns don't overestimate there and run into problems when they go to set the tax rate. Our state aid has a net increase of $9,959. So it's very little as far as what we're looking at as far as state aid is concerned. As far as expenses go, so our total new revenue is $2,388,000, and operating expenses we're projecting to go up by that same amount. So that's a balanced budget. What you'll see is some of the noteworthy items. Public Works looks like it's a reduction $225,000. Essentially what we've done is we've taken $225,000 from the construction money in the highway budget that was put in there a year ago in November. However, what we will be looking at doing is we will be looking at funding that same amount from free cash in May. Hopefully a little better than that. We've had a mild winter and we had $2 million left in free cash. So what we want to do is make sure that we're able to keep hold of that construction money for the highway department. And Jesse will be talking about that because I know the road committee's been working on some projects and we don't want to interfere with those. If anything, we want to try and increase that number. So the goal right now would be to increase the highway spending with free cash at town meeting so that a couple of the projects that are planned can move forward, and we're hoping that we can actually increase that amount a little bit more than what we've taken out as far as the operating budget goes. And again, Jesse, you'll see that the school budget reflects a 4.18% increase. That's $1.4 million. And I've had a lot of conversations with the superintendent and the chairman of the school committee. They're confident that they can do a level services budget and maintain the programs that they have with that increase. And Mr. Morano and Mr. Reed and maybe members of the school committee will be appearing before the board the second meeting in March. So they will be coming in You'll see that Blackstone Valley reflects a 5.55% increase of $65,900. That was an estimate. They actually came in with an increase of just over 50,000, so their actual increase is about 4.1%. I know we're very sensitive to seeing the vocational school getting larger percentage increases. Right now, it's projected a little bit less than what our own school district is projected. And again, education includes transportation as well. Overlay, we're looking at setting aside $250,000. You'll see last year it was 400,000. Usually the hit on the overlay for exemptions for the blind, the military, the elderly, and for our tax workout programs, about $380,000. You'll see it's only 250,000 that we're raising there, but we do have $1 million in overlay reserve. So we're very comfortable with that number. And if new growth does come in better, we'll look to set aside, which typically we do set aside before we set the tax rate in November. We'll bump that up. But right now, we're very comfortable with that number, given the $1 million that's set aside there. So it'll certainly be adequate. Cherry sheet offsets, 4.6 million. The bulk of that is school choice and charter schools. Although we are sending fewer children, out. So we're seeing some positive, some positive impacts. Blackstone Valley, I think we only had a fraction of what we typically have applying there. And I think it has a lot to do with new programs that we're having in the school department. And again, Mr. Morano can speak to that when he comes in. So there's no reductions in staff or services. We have one part-time increase in the Council on Aging, the senior center, which Josie's going to be joining us this morning. She'll speak to that. Our police department, they're finally getting to a point where they're able to fill all the transitional positions that they've had back and forth. And the chief will speak to that. He's here today. Operating expenses for 250 Depot Street are included. Couple other minor things that what's not included, as you know, the fire department had requested 6 new positions. Those were not included in this budget, as I described from a revenue perspective. It's about $600,000, so we would need to find that revenue if we were going to hire those positions, and we can discuss that further this morning. The revaluation, it's a once every so many year process. We'll be looking to fund that with free cash. That's $50,000. And we'll also look to beef up our trust at town meeting with the free cash that's left. The balance of that free cash we'll look to put into trust funds to stabilize any accounts that need to be stabilized. And with this budget, last year we were the lowest taxed, and we've talked about this, but I'll say it again, community in Norfolk County. So of the 30 communities, I believe it's 30 in Norfolk County, Bellingham had the lowest residential tax impact. And you know, you may say, well, let's look at Worcester County. I don't have those statistics for us. It's all on the Department of Revenue website, but we are the lowest in the region. If you look at our neighboring communities, as far as our residential tax burden, it is lower, and probably because we do have a split tax rate. So that is certainly a part of it. So by way of introduction, that's all I had, Mr. Chairman. And I know that we have, Heidi, I don't know if I missed anything, if there was anything that I missed.
No, you didn't miss
anything. Yeah, I know we've gone over this quite a few times. We've been talking budget for 2 months now, ourselves internally. And I just want to thank the departments, because there were a lot of adjustments that needed to be made, and the departments were extremely cooperative, as they always are. We're working together as a team. We try to do as much as we can, knowing that you know, every department, the schools, we're all one big town, and we try to make sure that, you know, we protect services as much as we possibly can. And I know that we've done that with this budget. So
if I could just touch on 3 points.
Yep.
Maybe if FinCom doesn't know about this, just to add. So I guess my first question would be, the new growth number at $1 million last year was at 700,000. We came in at 1.4. Is $1 million a conservative number?
it is a conservative number. It is a conservative number. It gives us an opportunity to potentially make some adjustments in the fall, but it's a number that I know, looking at the new growth, I've had extensive conversations with Sarcardi as well as Sonoyer in the assessor's office. It's a number everybody's comfortable with. And we'd rather be in a position in November where we have some excess levy capacity, which was the case last year. If you remember, we beefed up some budgets in November. We'd rather be in that position where we can beef them up in November, which I believe we will be able to do, then turn around and be looking at cuts. Because when you make cuts mid-year, it's almost like you have to double it because you've spent half of the budget. So certainly we want to stay away from anything like that. But yes, it is a conservative number. We know we have hundreds of housing starts. Homes are selling for $600,000-700,000, as well as 2 warehouse projects that are getting close to substantially complete. And we capture that new growth as of June 30th, so a little ways to go.
And the last 3 items, I think, are more the discussion with FinCom. So BVT has indicated that they want to do a $10 million capital program that we would have to be hit with our proportional share. And beginning last September, Hopedale has been leading a charge to review the BVT charter. And basically, I think for the first time, many town meetings are going to vote down the BVT budget on principle in an effort to rein in some of their costs. On the school side, for Bellingham school side, when you look at the school budget, they're budgeting for 100 students that need English language learner services, which are causing spikes in the school budget. Anecdotally, just yes.
So this week I saw emails on the $10 million BVT. But there was nothing in there that indicated what Bellingham's share of the 10 million would be. You know the dollar amount?
Yeah, that's because they're pursuing MSBA funding. They want the authorization so that they can go forward with, their planning, but no, we don't have a hard number. They won't have that until, one, they know exactly what MSBA is, and 2, they go out to bond that. The interest rate obviously affects the total amount.
Is there an estimate of what it could be?
I think we should get that, and that's something that we should have for the finance.
That's a
committee.
huge.
Yeah.
I mean,
Obviously over.
you're dividing it by 16 towns. Just some of the things that have come up in those meetings, in a town like Douglas has more than half of their high school students going to BVT, which is decimating their school district at the high school level.
See, I don't have visibility to facts like that.
Well, I just know because from an athletic standpoint, they can't field a girls' basketball team because all of their girls are going to BVT. And then the biggest complaint amongst the schools is the proportion sharing that Milford is not sending the number of students that are being selected to go to BVT. So some towns feel like they're being disproportionately hit with acceptances to a program that theoretically should be open to people who are looking to go into trades, and they have a higher college acceptance rate than most of the schools in the districts.
Yeah.
And that's just some of the Hopedale Select Board started leading a charge, and they're not giving up. So on our side, though, we have one of the last town meetings. So we always get to the point when it comes to the budget that it wouldn't matter if we voted against it because we would be 1/16 of the town's voting. But the other districts that go forward are worth watching because they may do some wholesale voting against the budget on principle as, so I think there's a lot there, given the number of meetings that have been attended. So, yes.
Is the main concern the increases in the budget, or is the main concern that they're not producing very many vocational,
I think that my opinion alone is that it's twofold. It's, the acceptance rates from individual towns is disproportionate to a Milford. And, there was a report it seemed like excessive administrators with excessive salaries. The superintendent makes 50% more than 50% more what our superintendent gets paid. To handle one school.
Okay. What I hear, and I don't really see the figures, is that they're producing, candidates for MIT and other engineering schools and STEM instead of building trades and,
That has been brought up, and the charter for BVT goes back to the early 60s, and apparently there will be a vote by the towns to reopen the charter and form a charter committee to review what the purposes of the tech schools.
so that's where the problem, okay.
Well, that's what some of the language that comes out of it, whether it's going to change, I don't know.
I was not aware of that in the background.
Which one?
I was not aware of that in the background. I thought it was a traditional,
Trade school. Yeah.
I've seen numbers as high as 90% qualify for college.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not
People
like
are-
when we were in school.
no.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, that's just anyone want to add anything before we move into MIS?
I mean, I'll just share as a reinforce what Mr. Connor said, as a BBT alumni, I am not happy with what the school has become. I will not be supporting their budget, town meeting, and I will be speaking out against it. It's not, as Mr. Connor said, when I went to BBT, I graduated class of 2000, there was a handful of us that went to college. Me, I went the military route. There were more military route students than there were college bound students at BBT. The school is just not what it used to be. You have kids that are going there, and I hear from parents, my classmates kids are trying to get into BBT now that aren't getting in. And it's, well, they didn't have the grades, they didn't have this, they didn't have that. I'm a product of Milford Public Schools. And I was told by my guidance counselor, Mr. Calagione, if you go to Milford, you will fail. You need to go to Blackstone Valley Tech. And I graduated national honors with scholarships to colleges, but but it was Johnson Wales, Culinary Institute of America, New England Culinary Institute. I went to product of culinary arts. I went in the service. Now that's not happening. And I will be reinforcing what Mr. Connors is saying at town meeting.
Karen, we love your background.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
hiding the gym parking lot that I'm sitting in the car in that's behind me. I'm at a basketball tournament right now. So I thought it would look better than people just walking by, looking into the car. All right, so I'll just jump right in here. So you'll notice a pretty substantial increase in the MIS budget this year. Instead of going line by line, making you try to find out where all those increases are, I've provided you with a spreadsheet, drawing your attention to the items that are contributing most to the increase. And most, if not all, these items are in some way either the result of the Maya cybersecurity insurance requirements that recently went into effect, or part of an overall increase in network security due to the imminent cybersecurity threats that municipal networks face. So if you want to review the items on the spreadsheet, or if you have any questions about those items or anything else in the budget, I'm happy to take them.
So by way of background, I think Karen, I know that a few, if not all of us, met with Heidi or Dennis along the way, so I had my questions addressed. Most of my questions came into the maintenance contracts, which weren't that significant individually, but more, it seems like a product of the time.
Yeah, our insurance company did put in some pretty strict requirements for municipalities that they had to abide by now regarding cybersecurity, multi-factor authentication, that sort of thing. So a lot of that kind of boosted as far as licenses and that sort of thing for Office. Like I said, multi-factor authentication, we really had to add quite substantially some licensing and software in order to abide by Maya's requirements.
Karen, do you want to touch on some of the grants that we've received for cybersecurity and web update, et cetera?
Yeah, the most recent one is a website update. We're doing a whole update to the website. We're giving it a facelift. Will be it'll just have a whole new look, a fresh look. It'll be a little different to navigate, but we feel like it'll be a lot easier to navigate. We're going to get the department heads more involved, getting more information out easier, faster. And I think it's obviously time. And we had this opportunity. There was a grant from the state that was out there. We applied for that in the fall. We got the grant. So all of this will be covered through grant funds. So we're very excited about that.
Right, and we are looking at, as the board talked about, more of a presence on social media. Dave Arnett, who's a GIS coordinator down at the DPW, is going to be very much engaged with that, working with Karen on that. So it'll something that we talked quite a bit about that is in the works, so that we can have more of a presence. And essentially what we have right now is the DPW has a page, the police do, fire do, I know COA does. We'll be able to have all those still stand alone, but we'll have a central location for it as well, where all of our municipal information can be out there as well, because it just seems that one of the primary places people get their news is Facebook, and we know that it's out there, and we need to get more involved with that, and it is something that Karen's working on, and Dave will be working with her on that as well.
John had a question.
There too. So I have seen where insurance companies will not renew liability policies for companies because they do not meet the minimum security standards in MIS. Do we meet the minimum security standard for the insurance company that provides liability coverage for the town?
So our insurance company does have those requirements, and that was what Karen was speaking to. Karen, do you want to touch on that again?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was speaking to. That's pretty much what boosted my budget this year. Maya did come down with a lot of
Maya is the
requirements.
Massachusetts Intergovernmental Insurance Agency, so they're our insurer.
Okay, so
Yep.
we do meet those standards with what we
Yes, we
have.
do meet those standards. That's
Okay.
correct. Yes.
Did you have a second question, Jim?
I'm also.
Yeah, are you here for voting or
Yes, I am.
Okay.
It starts at noon. Sorry?
starts at noon?
Starts at noon. I thought it was from 9 to 4.
No, it starts at 12 o'clock.
It
Yeah.
was in the,
Yeah.
you can check, I believe the town clerk is in. You can go check with him. The town clerk's.
And you might be able to do early voting, absentee voting there.
So I actually do. So I ask this question every year in the finance committee. Is there any security software out there that we are not required to have, that you think we should have?
Yep, and that's one Karen's always ready for, because she knows you ask it.
I'm always ready for that. Yes. Yeah, we do meet the minimum standards that Maya requires, but we have also robusted. We've added additional software. We've installed new hardware, more management oversight of our network, simply just to cover as much as we could for cybersecurity. So
We're above the minimum standard.
we are above the minimum standard at this
Thank
point.
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I had nothing else.
Yep. Karen, I think you can turn off your back screen and go back to whatever you were doing.
I'm going back to the basketball game. We just won an exciting one, so I'm ready to get back in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, Karen.
Bye.
Hey, Josie, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm sorry I'm not at spring break with Karen. I decided to stay in the hallway of the school.
Yeah.
Truth is.
You want to
So,
run through your
yeah.
salient points?
Okay, well, there is a 15%, approximately 15% increase on the budget request. And it's predominantly due to the change. The past 3 years, we've requested money to hire a part-time social worker. And we've been unsuccessful in finding anybody that wants to work for the salary that we were willing to pay and the number of hours that we had. So we've kind of shifted. A lot of towns are moving in the direction of having a therapist on staff. And the request is that we hire a part-time licensed therapist. So that increase, it practically doubles the request that I've made the past 3 years. So it's, request of last year was 23,900 for somebody to work 15 hours a week. And now we're requesting 45,000 for somebody to work 19 and a half hours a week, but it's a licensed therapist. So the idea of it is that we see a lot of mental health issues at the senior center and feel underqualified. We are often making calls to our MHOT coordinator. I don't know if people are familiar with MHOT. For the past years, 7 years, we've managed a program called the Elder Mental Health Outreach Team for 6 towns. So Bellingham being one of the towns, but Bellingham has been the one that has managed the budget for it and housed Gail Barasa as the therapist. We oversee that MHOT again. In the past, it has just rolled into the next year. It has continued, but now the state has taken it over and it's gone on to the Combine site. So we will not be managing the MHOT, but have the opportunity to hire a part-time licensed therapist to handle issues that we have in Bellingham. So that's the biggest. The other increases are related to, increasing postage and just office supply costs and salary increases. Any questions that I can answer?
What other town are we sharing that worker with, and is it proportional?
No other town. We are the sole proprietor of that part-time licensed therapist.
Okay,
We do
your
have some
narrative
others.
says it's shared with a neighboring town, though.
That was the goal initially.
Oh, we,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry about the narrative. That was the initial goal. We were going to try and share with Franklin, but Franklin recently hired 3 therapists through the police department. So they thought about it for a period of time, but then realized that there's no real need right now because they can utilize the therapists through the police department.
The other thing is, several years ago, there was a question or discussion with your predecessor as to what the proportionate cost per senior over the age of 60 or 65 represented to your budget is. Does that data exist to say how much we spend? Because we have an aging community.
How much we spend per senior? Or,
Right.
I'm not sure what you're asking me.
Well, if we have a population of 17,000 and we have 5,000 people over the age of 60 or 65, your per person cost, and there's got to be some comparative. Very similar to the argument that the library makes that we have minimum spends. And it's a question of whether we're providing appropriate services. I'm trying to help you budget, just whether you ask for enough money. For
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. I'm sure the data exists, Michael. I think we have 4,100 or so seniors in Bellingham, people aged 60 and older. And we do service adults with disability as well, just to throw that out there
Would be through the town.
for us to
clerk's
consider as
office.
well.
You
I
have that listed.
Yeah, as far as the new position goes, I know
Would this position be with the police, like she said, like Franklin would be having a counselor ride with the police department rather than at the senior center?
well, this particular position, it's replacing a position that exists now that's shared with multiple other towns, about 6 or 7 towns. It really came to a head. I know Sahan is on the dementia committee, and essentially what's happened is we have a grant that, as I say, funds multiple towns, I think 6 towns, and the waiting time for a person that is in need of mental health services, a senior that's in need, is upwards of 6 months, I think, is what you had told me, Josie. So it's a considerable backlog. So what we're trying to do is address it a little quicker. We had $23,000 in the budget. We boosted it by $20,000, and that allows us to hire and we actually have an individual that's interested in doing it and is well qualified and we're familiar with. So it's really counseling services. Certainly at some point in time, the police chief may look to get counseling services, much like Franklin does for all of the mental health issues that they deal with. But I don't know, Sahan, if you wanted to touch on that. I know you were involved in that as well. Yeah.
No, I think you get all the information in it. I think it will be a great option in it, just to have it just in town, just for us. Instead of sharing with the different towns or so forth, so on.
I think that's a better way to do it too.
Yeah, and it's not, it's not a huge expense, and it's just a take on too.
And we know that there's a real need out there because of the number of people that are on a waiting list to get services now. And a lot of them are housebound. A lot of them have, need support for a family member who's, having aging diseases and et cetera. Josie, anything else on that, or we got it covered?
Josie, I think she's frozen.
She's frozen.
Yeah.
She's freezing like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, we're very. Am I still frozen?
Yeah, no, you're undone.
Yeah, I didn't know. Good now, okay. So, one of the things that we're very excited about in the office is that, like, I would see this therapist as the ER doctor. So somebody comes in crisis, and this therapist would be able to triage that person. So perhaps they need immediate mental health services, but maybe the mental stressors that are going on can be alleviated by having the person sit with our outreach coordinator and apply for food stamps and fuel assistance and things of that nature, things that cause mental health issues. So our hope is that just having this person as part of the team will help us just better serve the seniors overall, and it will get them to the senior center too, which we know helps with mental health issues. When we can get people socializing.
Thanks,
Am I still
Josie.
frozen?
Yeah. Oh, we're good. Thank you very much.
Basketball,
Sorry, yes,
I
Mark.
just have one thing for Josie. I just thought of this. In other parts of my, other things I do,
Josie, hold on.
stretching and yoga and stuff like that are very helpful for preventing injuries. If you still charge for yoga, you might want to consider, doing that, and maybe that would have a positive effect on our PT budget. Just a thought.
So we already have, we already offer 3 yoga classes weekly, and we just had 3 of us who work for the senior center three of us got certified as a chair yoga instructors, and that is a class that we're gonna be offering for free starting in April.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Josie.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.
Chief, we're already 2 minutes late for you. And you know what? You can take all the time you need. The last meeting, you're a little rushed.
I can get through it quick.
You don't have to.
Chief, you surprised me. I saw a picture of you with
When I
hair.
was thinner and prettier. So, good morning, members of the board. So I have, and I just wanted the chair's question to the COA. I can answer the police perspective of that. The as of 2020, the average cost of policing in Massachusetts was $346 per resident. This year's budget, we're spending, basing it on a 17,000 population, which I think is low, $244 per resident. So we're $100 per resident less. My request is a 9% increase, primarily driven by salary, contractual obligations, and shoring up some unfunded liabilities we have, drives us up to $294 per resident based on 17,000, which I still would argue is probably not the true number. So if that number was to go up to 18 or 18.5 and some of these projects go online, it's driving us back down to that 244. So we're substantially less than the average across Massachusetts. So I have a incredibly exciting PowerPoint here. I'm just gonna share my screen. So. It's a lot going on here. Where's the slideshow? All right, so just a real quick.
Yeah, you can minimize that, right?
This. Okay, good enough. I have a slightly different view. I've got all the Zoom stuff going on here. So FY25 needs analysis. So the biggest thing, what's driving basically 220 plus thousand is contractual obligations with the police union, the patrol officers and sergeants that was signed previously, that runs through including this fiscal year that's coming up. We're addressing some unfunded liabilities and salaries. I've talked ad nauseum to those, but that's basically training, which is an unfunded mandate from the state. They're constantly coming out with new, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to hit so many benchmarks, so many hours, and there's very limited funding coming from them. So it's up to us, the municipality, to own these requirements. It also includes dispatch. So you see that in my next thing here, the training council, the post commission, 911, And as we move towards becoming a certified and or accredited police department, all the requirements to maintain that are unfortunately expensive on the back end. Also, I'll get into other stuff as I move on, but meeting industry best standards, basically doing what our peer communities in the area are doing and what's expected of a municipal police department in 2024. Expense needs, my expense budget, I was able to keep that pretty reined in, about a 2.5% increase there. And that's really just the bare minimal covering some inflationary things, and then a couple of one-time assessments that we're getting hit with by some of the groups that we unfortunately are forced to pay the one-time assessments to for shared resources. The fleet replacement thing, we're keeping that, so we can skip that, and quality services to the community. So this is basically, the numbers changed slightly, the TA had me take a little bit back out of the budget, but these numbers are basically where we're at, salary versus expense. Most of my peer chiefs are running between 10 and 12% for expenses, but a lot of them have some different setup to their budget than we do, due to things like fuel, utilities at the building, some IT costs, some stuff that comes out of other budgets, some of the HR stuff for medicals for new hires. So where that's not in our budget actually is very comparable to a lot of our peers. It's just some of those pieces are broken out into other town budgets. This is just our activity for these are calendar years, not fiscal years. So you see calls for service. There was a spike in 2022, dropped slightly. Arrests are up substantially, 50%. Incident reports very stable. Accident reports a slight dip, which is nice. In theory, it could correlate to an increase in traffic enforcement. You see with citations, there is supposed to be a correlation that if you're doing vigorous traffic enforcement, it drives crashes down. So hopefully that's what occurred there. Just a very boring organizational overview. So currently we have one vacant lieutenant spot. We had an assessment center last week for that, and we're waiting scores. It's still through a civil service process, so about 6 weeks till we get a list and can fill that. And the police officers who are competing to be a sergeant are doing that right now. As we speak, that process is going on. So again, about those 6 weeks to get that list in place. Here's some of the training requirements that all our sworn staff, myself included, all the way down, are mandated. So in service is 32 hours, and then it's an additional 8 hours of in-person CPR and first aid. Firearms is a minimum of 8 hours. We do 12 to 16. Tasers and use of force, that's a 6-hour annual review. And this year, since the taser will be new equipment, it's 8 hours to 8 hours just to get up and running. And then some of these other ones are some of our more specialty positions are firearms and use of force instructors, people on the Metro-elect, the SWAT officer, school resource officers, FTOs, all have annual requirements. And these are all minimal requirements. This is the bare minimum, not including any professional development, any bettering of them, anything like that. So, and then of course, future requirements, TBD, those change, I feel like, by the week. So here's what's driven our increases this year. The police union, we have a lot of new officers, a lot of them hit step raises, and then there's the COLA, which is split over the year, and I just jumped ahead here. I don't know how that happened. Well, we're gonna go back a slide. Current slide. There we go. Education is going to be a big one this year because we're converting, it was also contractual, they're converting to a percentage for their education from a flat dollar amount. So this is a substantial increase there. And we also had to budget for a number of officers who are in college. Some are on the 10-year plan, some are on a very aggressive plan. So there'll be many that finish college at some point during the fiscal year, and they're going to pick up that stipend. Dispatch, very small increase. The rest of us was very marginal increases, all contractual. Again, the big one was with the police union. We have some challenges here. We're working through this. The TA and I have we have a tentative agreement on an issue with the union where I think we can fix some of the issues with uncontrolled time off. Holiday pay is a big one. This is a big one that the budgeted line this year was 3,500. Well, we have 33 union members. If they asked to be paid for the holidays, because they can take the day off, they can take a different day off, they can collect pay. The liability, if they all said, I want the check, is $150,000. Today's money. So most of them choose the time off. So that time off, if I have to backfill half of it, which is a conservative number, the liability is about 91,000. If I had to backfill all of it, the liability flies through the roof because I'm backfilling it at time and a half. So that's where that big drive came from, that holiday, the big increase in the holiday, and then training. It's basically, that's overtime money. That 50,000 represents training the patrol force, the 27 members where there is an overtime liability, getting them to in-service training, just to the bare minimum stuff, and replacing them if need be. So, and the actual overtime liability in that is closer to 62 to 64,000. We adjusted it down. Some will be absorbed out of the overtime, and it's very hard to tell. We're close to fully staffed right now, so we have less overtime. We have 3 or 4 people who are all pension eligible already, and at any point, if those 3 or 4 leave, now we're back to filling some more overtime while we try to get people through the door. So it's kind of an ebb and flow situation. Again, the minimum staffing, a couple of these things these are issues I think we're working through, and I think we're gonna have a pretty nice deal with the union to rectify a perceived issue that will fix a lot of the management rights stuff that could help rein in some of our spending. But, and this OT liability, this is a very basic number, but basically across the bottom, this is a very rough average, and it's based on a fairly low dollar amount that we know is going to go up as we make some adjustments. But the 377 represents our overtime liability if I have to replace 60% of the shifts at today's money. So that's why this increase, because today's money isn't July 1st money, isn't with an increased educational incentive, et cetera. So this is at today's money, but this is the amount of, just the amount per officer with all the time off that they're contractually obligated to or allowed. And what this doesn't cover the unforeseen. This doesn't cover if there was a disaster. This doesn't cover if there was a critical incident. This doesn't cover if, God forbid, an entire shift was involved in a use of force situation. We had to put 3 or 4 people out on administrative leave while it was worked through for, months at a time. So this covers what we can control. It doesn't cover the uncontrolled. Some grant money, and the good news we've taken in, one of the most recent ones, e-citation. We just got printers by the state installed in all our vehicles last week. They're going to train one of our people to show the others how to use it, and that will be up and running. That was 13,000, 33,000 on road safety, 911 grants, 55,000. The burn grant, that was to offset the cost of tasers. We were awarded that. It's just under 50,000. So that drives that price down. And the bulletproof vest reimbursement that we haven't participated in ages, we've got that. So that will help drive down some of those costs for us. Where are we at for time here? Good.
You can go over.
Some expense increases. I'm not gonna go wild on this because, like I said, my expenses are about 2.5%, but vehicle maintenance, I think anyone that's had their oil change or bought tires lately, I think I can just leave it at that. Supply chain challenges have just basic stuff, cleaning supplies for our custodian, things like that. Sometimes we can't buy, the cheapest thing isn't available, so we're forced into buying things that, and then of course, we're a government entity and somehow everything ends up getting more expensive than it needs to be. A lot of purchase services, we get crushed with those. We've got a couple of projects around the station. We have a plumbing issue we've been dealing with in the cell block that it's just, they see a municipality and the price is, I don't know, in my opinion, 30 or 40% more than it would be if it was not. So we're fighting a good battle to drive those costs down. Couple of the big one-time assessments, Bayburn, that's our area-wide radio system. They're doing a pretty big assessment this year to replace a lot of their infrastructure. Metrolec, that's where we draw SWAT team, K9 drones from to regional unit. They need a new command post. That's like buying a new fire ladder truck. It's that kind of money. So, and every community needs to pony up a one-time assessment, and they're using, I think, Homeland Security grant money for the rest. And MPAC, that's the Accreditation Commission. We don't have an exact cost yet, but we're estimating somewhere around $4,000 to be a member, get access to their software, and be able to have them come in, assess us, and certify us as a certified police department. And training, most of the training our people attend is not free. Most of it's paid out of the seminars line in my budget. I don't like the word seminars. It's not seminars. That's our training line for sending somebody to a class. And for example, most one-day trainings are $200 to $300. And as the training expands, 3 to 5 day trainings get expensive. Cost savings, we saved 20% on our tasers due to a grant award. We rearmed the department with 9mm handguns this year, replacing 13-year-old handguns. That's gonna be about 20% decrease in pistol ammunition as we move forward. And we've got some grant funding, and we're chasing mitigation opportunities as well. We got some portable radar units, LiDAR units, speed measurement devices. We got a couple of traffic signs that the radar ones will tell you how fast we're going that are new for the DPW is going to put them in the spring for us. And like I said, the mitigation funds, we're working with the planning board pretty aggressively, us and the fire department, to try to offset some of the critical infrastructure stuff that we know is coming up on or past due, but getting outside entities to pay for it. And some future budget needs. Most of this is capital. Most of it is down the road. There are some potential staff positions. Ultimately, I'm looking to expand dispatch down the road. I'm hoping that at some point we might even be able to take on a neighboring smaller community, and we be the regional center, so we get their 911 grant money, and we ensure that our positions are safe and properly staffed. But it's a long-term play. And some of these dedicated positions, a family service officer, traffic officer, those are positions I could assign somebody to now when we get to full staffing. We're still 2 bodies short right now. Enhancing liability, enhancing some security features at the building, such as parking bollards and shatterproof and bullet resistant film on the windows. That stuff I'm trying to do out of my existing budget. We're well ahead of budget this year, so I'm hoping with some of what we have saved, we can take care of a couple of these infrastructure challenges. Capital needs, this is long-term, nothing to do with this, so I'll kind of skip right past this, but it's been talked about. That's kind of it. If anyone has any questions, I should throw out get rid of this. I know it's incredibly exciting stuff.
Do you know how many are in school right now? Your officers in the academy?
I have one young lady starting Monday, going to the Plymouth Police Academy. So that's position number 34. So we still have 2 open positions. We have an offer out. We had an accepted offer out to a civil service lateral transfer. His community refused to sign off releasing him. So civil service has some legislation that's expected to be passed in the next 6 to 8 weeks that's going to modify how we can do hiring. So we still might be able to get him in pretty soon. And besides that, there's still potential issues with town meeting, things like that, to maybe find a different exit strategy. So if the hiring process was different, we would have 36 right now, but where I'm still fighting with the civil service process, that's where we've exhausted our list of residents.
Right.
And the statewide list now, all the smaller towns like us that have exhausted their list of residents are into the statewide list. And so it's the same, several hundred people are getting emails for hundreds of different openings, and so it's kind of a mess, but.
And I think when we talked, that this is your 6th female, correct?
Yes,
So this is the end of the lockers.
this is the end of the locker room as we know it.
So that's also in the future, we're gonna have to consider. If more females come and apply, we will have to do something to reconstruct, so he has enough room to put them.
Yeah,
John, you had a curious look. Are you aware of the situation? FinCom,
Could you,
we're at capacity with female officers in their locker room. And as such, we have a need to expand the police station so that we potentially, if we met the 30% goal of female officers, we need to be able to have a bigger locker room facility and the cost is under 100,000? 50,000,
350.
350?
It's the first time I hear of anything you just said.
Yeah, well, it's only been discussed.
It's only in the last
Yeah, just-
month.
Yeah, essentially, ARPA funds were allocated for the, to start
The design architectural to get plans and kind of come up with a true square footage, true costs, that sort of thing. But yeah, we have 6 female police officers and the police station was built with 6 female lockers. And there's no, the locker room is very small, there's nowhere to expand it, so I don't even have facilities for my dispatch and non-sworn female personnel, there's no space for them, so right now it's only sworn personnel have a actual space in the locker room for females.
Something that we all need to be aware of, I think.
I have a couple of questions. You guys want to go first?
No, I'm all set.
A couple of questions. Yes, John.
I have one question. The staffing level in the budget, is that where the town should be or you want to be, or are we still short 1, 2, 3?
So, you know, 2 per 1,000-ish is the rough, FBI national numbers. Some places are closer to 3, some places a little less. So the 36, if I can get the 36, I'm comfortable with for now. What's the town gonna look like in 2 or 3 years? Yeah, different story, but today, if I can get the 36, I think it's a comfortable, manageable number. And part of why I don't want to ask for more right now is I don't have the facilities. I can't,
Okay.
so.
No, because in prior years, we used to hear that we're understaffed and it's not in the budget. I just wanted, that we're over that.
Yeah, I would say the chief has done an exceptional
Yeah,
job of
we're
getting people
very
into the
exceptional,
academy.
yeah.
We're budget, I think our staffing is good. I actually think down the road, when you see me come for staffing, it will be more for support staff than sworn staff. So.
Thank you.
Chief, is it, I know you're not happy with the civil service process. Is it gonna cost anything to get out of civil service?
No.
Okay.
There's a lot going on, there's a lot of moving pieces with it. One thing they did do is this pending legislation that what we're told by the MMA, Mass Chiefs, and everyone else that's been involved is they want this on the governor's desk signed before April. So the 28 communities that are currently trying to exit civil service, this happens before all their Springtown meetings. Now, if they make these changes, could we live with it? Maybe. Would it make a difference? Maybe. There's a nice caveat at the bottom of it that if you come out of civil service, you never participated in civil service, there'll be a legislative subcommittee to examine your hiring practices with subpoena authority.
So we need to get out of civil service before April.
Well, if we get out before or after, and that passes, then the legislature can examine our hiring practices. If we stay in, so it's almost there's a little caveat there to, oh, you want to leave? Here's what happens if you leave. You're gonna get special close examination from the state. So it's,
But I'm not concerned about your hiring practice.
yeah, no, neither am I, but it's just one more hurdle, to be one more,
Pain in the neck to deal with.
one more pain in the neck thing that's bogging down.
So what would be needed for you to get out of civil service?
So we have a placeholder on the spring town meeting warrant. There's a difference of opinion with town council on exactly how to go about doing it. Most of the peers and the Mass Chiefs that have done it have put in language, basically, town meeting language would say, we vote to rescind the vote of 1932 and 1966 or 67. We vote to rescind those votes, and it's a legal challenge to come out of civil service that way, but it seems doable. And the MMA had a big meeting that Dennis and I were on, where they basically said, well, we know, communities have the right to come out through town meeting because the state's refusing to act on special legislation. So it's kind of a murky waters that a lot of people have treaded before, but now they've inserted this, well, we're reforming civil service, and if you leave, this bottom paragraph applies. So,
But all of your hiring problems would probably go away.
well, the hiring problems would go away for sure.
Okay, and how does the union feel about that?
Well, they already agreed to come out of civil service
Okay.
at the contract with some of these, you know, what I'd say are, I want to say substantial raises, but very, you know, generous cost of living and adjustments. A little more so than some of their peers are getting in the area. Part of the drive for that was they agreed to exit civil service. They agreed to a new hiring process, a new promotional process. This promotional process for sergeant and lieutenant is going to cost us almost $15,000. If we were out, it could be run a little differently, a little more cost effectively, but I'm forced to do the civil service through an approved civil service vendor through their method, and it's.
So
It's a big
if
cost.
we weren't in civil service, you would be running the process yourself. Basically.
I would be able to hire and do it a little differently for cost savings.
That's-
A couple of quick questions that maybe to you now. So, the educational incentive has a percent instead of fixed. Was that part of the CBA?
It wasn't part of the CDA, and if you recall, the driving force was retention. All the communities around us have gone back to the Quinn Bill, so we were basically a training ground for the region. And one of the questions I think to the chief is, have we become competitive enough to hold on to our own?
I think
personnel
we're,
in general?
you know, and it's, people don't necessarily quit bad jobs. They quit people they don't want to work with or work for, things like that. So, or they go work with their friends, or my friend transferred to somewhere. He says it's good. I'm going to follow him. So we see a lot of that, but I think we've gotten that under control. I don't think you're going to see anyone leaving. I mean, the state police is the state police. They have horses and helicopters and boats and things like that. Somebody inevitably will go there. They always do. From every that can't compete with that. But aside from that, I don't think we're going to see anyone else say, "Well, I want to go work in Franklin or I want to go work in Milford." I think that's done. So some of it was a culture fix, some of it's a money fix, and they're competitive. They're on the slightly lower end of competitive, but they're not where they were before. They weren't competitive. Now at least they're in the ball game.
My last more is just a comment, when we sat down, there were some stark differences between line items. Because you've changed what you call training versus overtime and recategorized them. So when FinCom looking at the budget, I mean, I noticed one that changed a couple $100,000, but it was a matter of how overtime was allocated for training, vice versa. So just kind of stood up. When you
Are you saying the holidays and training? Because holidays and training went to
Placed it by
zero.
category changed dramatically, but not in totality.
Right, right. And I mean, just being a finance person and having been through this process in other communities, I like having it in those separate buckets of money. I think it's easier to stomach, easier for everyone to, it's versus that big giant overtime number that causes the gasp from the community. Why is there overtime so much? Well, overtime's not that much. There are things that do cost overtime, but it's not just paying a cop to do cop things.
You're gonna like him. He's on his FinCom board in his town.
I'm the clerk now. I got besaddled with that.
All right, we are a little bit, I'm glad you didn't feel rushed today, like our meeting. So,
I can go for another half hour, but no one wants to hear this stuff. It's not interesting.
Yes, it is.
we're good. All right, Chief, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you, chief. Nice job as always.
Thanks.
Bernadette. Welcome.
Hello. And Sue.
Sue, sorry, Sue.
Oh, that's fine. No, that's good. No, okay. You don't, want me to make the persons in the waiting room? Oh. Good. Can you do it? I think I do, okay. Oh, yep, thank you.
Floor is yours. You have any, unless you want to
Ready?
just that.
Yep, nope, I believe you're gonna be ready, okay. So I'm just gonna do a short summary and I'll take questions. Our overall budget increase request is 2.86%. The vast majority of that is salaries, 16,000 is salaries, 2,200 is operating. Our salary increases, the vast majority of staff is 3 to 4%. I have one staff member who's 8%, which is a position we've been growing over the last 3 years. This is the third year. The vast majority of us are still a little bit underpaid compared to neighboring communities, not neighboring communities, communities with a population similar to ours, based on 2022 statistics from the Board of Library Commissioners. So I think, with, with what's happening with inflation, I think these are fair, salary increases for our staff. The operating budget is is just about the same, nothing really incredible there. And I think that's a good summary. I don't know if there's any specific questions on specific line items that are there.
I brought it up in our meeting, so just to clarify on the math, so when it talks about the 15% municipal appropriation on material.
Yep. That's the 98,500 number. We have to
Yep.
spend 15% of our budget on things the public takes out of the building. That's one of the state requirements.
Right, so is that number divided into not the 652, it'd be about 575? Like, what's the denominator?
The total municipal budget, so the 652.
Right, but if the 98.5 is part of the 652, is it a percentage of that number before? So-
Right, it's the full number, right? You take the 652 and times 0.15. Isn't,
So I would disagree with that.
it's not right?
No, I mean, I would think that your denominator should be 652
Mine,
minus what you spent last year. And then you
yeah,
spend
that's,
15%
it's
of
the
that.
formula I get from the state. That's not my, that's not my call.
Yeah, no, so that was the question I asked that we didn't get.
Yeah. And there are some other requirements, the number of hours we're open
Yep.
is a requirement.
I mean, we had, what, is it 6-7 years ago that if you go under the minimum requirements. for
Yeah,
2
we-
years,
yeah,
your
we have-
certification.
We
Yeah.
applied for the waiver, we got the waiver. The waiver process is pretty fair. As long as your library budget isn't cut disproportionately to other town departments, they grant a waiver. A lot of paperwork involved, but the state is pretty, if there is no money there, they understand that. So they do allow a waiver if you're not disproportionately cut to other town departments.
That's the only question I have is, I think what you're doing there is great, yeah, school programs. As long as no one drives through the building, we're all good.
Yeah.
There's like a 3 months left. 5 months left. No driving.
I think there was a lot of concern when Mr. Thieves left, and he did a
Yeah.
phenomenal job,
He
and I
did.
think the programs are.
We're
great.
yeah,
The
we're
youth
back,
program
or,
is
it's,
phenomenal.
things are, our new children's librarian is things are coming back to, the attendance is back, there was a gap, because people did like, when people love someone, they leave, it changes things, but.
That's true.
But I think we're in a good place right now, we've got a good staff that's working together well, and rebuilding those things that Steve was doing, she brought back alphabets. So some of the things that he was doing are brought back, so.
There's
I
been a
think
lot of good things.
And some of the other community things you're doing, the photographs and paintings that you had there.
That was a great show. We did an
That was
art and
awesome.
photography show. We had over 100 people showed up. We had 65 entries. And people were really excited. It was a really, it was really good. So we're trying to do, we have a business expo on April 6th. So any of those businesses, we did this last year for the first time. Businesses have a table at the library. People come in and talk to them about their services, kind of in a non-sales, environment, just kind of what companies do. That's coming up on April 6th. So when the public comes, we have 20 to 30 tables already. People signed up for tables. So.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that was a partnership with the Bellingham Business Association that we did last year when we had a grant, and we decided just to keep doing it because it's a good program.
I think it's great.
Almost, everything else was that.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Tim, you're up.
Mel's waiting.
We're covering a number of line items.
Yeah, so we'll start with 24. You want to talk about Board of Health benefits?
Not much of any changes. I think it's pretty.
So the only change, the tab 21, there was, they are increasing, going to increase their board from 3 to 5, so there is a difference there. And that's pretty much it, other than, there's a little bit of a difference for, let's see, for coverage for when the health agent is absent, vacation, sick time, we do have an independent inspector that we do utilize now, and that was underfunded, so we have a new health inspector, Dylan, and most of you have probably met him, working out very well. He's very energetic and he's very into the position, and so that position requires a lot of certifications, and he has some, and he's continuing education. And so there is a line, for training and stuff. So he's working on licensing. So in the meantime, we do contract out a professional that does the inspections that he's certified for, that Dylan is not. And Dylan does go out with them and trains with them, but he's also has continuing education as well. So that's those two line items that have increased, their board and the part-time coverage, and so that's Board of Health. So tab 24 is building. This, we don't have, we're not hiring any new personnel. We don't have any new expenses. We've cut back it just a little bit, on some expenses, postage and stuff like that, which is small, tiny stuff. But most of it's all contractual. So do you have any questions on build? I mean, so the receipts, we talked about it before, for growth. So I think as of February, mid-February, we were like at just under 400,000 as far as receipts, going back to general fund. That's as of February. So I think we projected 5 something. So coming to June 30. So we're pretty much on track. We're real busy. A lot of, you guys know, the housing that create, that bring in the permit fees. We're really robust right now. Some of the projects haven't come online, but there are several of them. Bungay Brook, up near the VFW, that's going pretty good. And it's all sales driven, so they're just going and going. So, and then we have some spotty projects around town that are obviously contributing to the permit fees. Other than that, it's pretty much been the same conversation the last 3 years, so.
So Tim, doing the inspections yourself full-time?
Yep.
And
So I have a part-time inspector that works 3 days a week. He also does Upton. He's part-time in Upton. He's been with us for probably just over 4 years now. And he works out really well, experienced guy. We also have we have the ability to contract out, which your board appoints annually, another inspector that's approved by the state, and we use him for fill-ins too. So, and that's just up per diem. Other than that, I mean, depending on what happens, I mean, we have a lot of stuff coming down, housing projects. We have the MBTA overlay, which who knows if it, I mean, we designate it, but who knows if it, at what time they would build something, to that goes along with that MBTA zoning would, determine again how busy we are and projected fees and stuff. So.
We got a lot of things going on before we can get to that,
Yeah, I mean, that's just another, another
Yeah.
avenue that, work comes in on, and it's pretty dense. That's a dense thing. So who knows whenever that'll, take shape, but that's an ongoing thing, and, we'll see what happens with that. Other than that, it's all contractual. Any questions on, this tab?
I will say, keep doing your thing, man.
Yeah, we just keep going along. We keep waiting for it to slow down. It just doesn't happen. Tab 25 is again part of my department. It's the electrical, all contractual. Tab 26 is plumbing. Same thing. No change there.
Yep.
That's that. So tab 39 is planning. I obviously work, with this department, and so, zoning, planning, building, they all work together, as you know that. So we've been deficient in this department for a while since Jim, left, but you know, we still, Jim does, still handle stuff and, helps with decisions and denials and, you know, a lot of communication in between with, the moving parts for, the development plans that come in, working with Amy and myself, and the applicants. So, but that, you know, that is gonna be coming to, a head soon. You know, he can't continue to do this, and he has let us know, and that probably by the end of this year, I think Dennis, you know, that's gonna go away. So we do have to go for a town planner, and that's what we're talking about now.
We actually had a position, leave, the planning officers transfer within. And it's just an optimum time to look at what we're paying Jim and what we were paying that clerk, combining those two salaries together and going back out and seeing if we can't find a planner. It's a competitive market, but I think we have so much going on in town now. And it worked out well with Jim servicing us virtually, but the time has come where we need to have a presence in the building. There's just too much happening not to have that. So we're able to do it and fund it almost entirely within the existing budget. So we'll still have the two positions down there. Amy Sutherland, who has been an assistant planner, will continue to be an assistant planner, and we would hire a new planner and not.
She can't move it.
No, yeah, she certainly has done a great job doing what she does, but, and she's happy doing what she's doing, and she'll have, some refined responsibilities, but, continue to work in the office, and so.
So
She's been holding before, I mean.
Yeah, she's
She
doing
has
an
done a
awesome.
wonderful
Yep.
job.
She's doing a
Yes.
fantastic job, and it's,
Yep.
there was a lot of things going on, you know, it's, under your, umbrella, I mean, just, you know, it's, I think, you know, she's holding it.
Yeah, it's a busy time right now.
Yeah.
And she's looking forward to having somebody come back and be in that position full-time as well, so.
We absolutely need a full-time planner. We
I
even
wasn't
had
I
one a
wasn't sure
while
if she was
ago.
qualified. I mean, she's been doing an amazing job. If she was qualified to move
Yeah.
up or had any desire to move up.
Yep.
So the balance of what we would pay the town planner is somewhere else because it's only 58.5 in this line item.
Right, well, this line item doesn't reflect all three positions.
Right.
The position that Katrina was servicing as like the clerk down there is in a different budget. I forget which budget that's in.
I'm just saying it is in multiple budgets.
Yeah, it's multiple budgets,
Because
right?
if you look back to 22, it's 66,000.
Yep. Yeah, it's multiple budgets that we combine to make that work.
We can touch a little bit on some maintenance stuff, you know, the library, which, Bernadette didn't really mention on, but, their boilers are, pretty much at the end of their life. One has died. We went out and got, some competitive bids to get them replaced, to get it to them singularly, the way they've set up. But that is an opera fund, item, and we're pretty close to that. Once it gets a little bit warmer, we're gonna change one out. So,
So there'll be no need for additional appropriation for that. It's
Right.
funded within our budget, so.
other than that, the, senior center, we're gonna start meetings, the, first week in March. We're gonna start talking to, Josie and some of the members up there to, start their appliance replacement, and they're adding a freezer to there, and they're excited to get going on that. So we're gonna start meeting with that to get that project going.
Okay.
It's a big expense, and that's opera funds as well. It's the appliances that are driving the cost on that, but you know, it is reimbursed by opera funds. So that's where we're at. Yeah, there is some electrical work and plumbing, you know, associated with, but the big ticket item is the appliances, all new appliances. They're gonna have, you know, pretty much a commercial setup in there. They designed, you know, they had a big hand in designing it. We all got together, you know, and helped them create a plan, and it's done, and it's time to get moving on it. So they're excited to get.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Other than that,
Message board?
yeah, message board, yeah, we're starting that process on that. The ground's starting to thaw out now, and we're gonna, you know, probably another month or so, depending on weather permitting, we'll get the base in, and I wanna get the board ordered, so.
Mhm.
That's gonna be, that'll be taking shape out front as well. The DPW building, is moving right along. The foundation is in, they're doing the last bit of the foundation now. We really haven't had that many issues, you know, normal things come up, but other than that, they're on the last leg of the foundation right now, small corner where the basement is. They were supposed to pour yesterday, but they canceled it. So they're pouring next week and that'll be done, and then they're gonna work on damn proofing and getting the thing graded up and everything. So they're moving along on that. The colors have been selected for the facade, you know, that kind of thing. Any questions on it?
No, your last comment was a great segue into Jesse being the DPW. So,
Thanks.
Good luck, Jesse.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking this to meet with me this morning. Got a handful of budgets to cover. I'll start with I got a brief opening summary as to what to expect from each of these budgets. So all salaries in the DPW budgets have been submitted to reflect the settled CPA agreements. 4 new 4-person positions have been created. They are the Parks 4-person, Infrastructure 4-person, Facilities 4-person, and Mechanic 4-person.
And just for the record, those aren't new positions, those are existing promotions essentially.
That is correct. Yep. So to Dennis's point, these roles are not additional roles, rather elevated positions within the collective bargaining agreement. As a result, the former roles of head facilities operator and head mechanic have been dissolved or will be dissolved as of July 1st. Additionally, 2 of the general laborer positions titled truck driver, operator, pipe fitter have been dissolved into the new 4-person roles. Rates submitted reflect a 3% cost of living increase from 2024, FY24. As a result, as well as the rolling in of various stipends, including treatment and distribution licenses. The 4-person roles receive an additional $3 per hour over the positions they supervise. A new GL for DPW on-call and standby duty has been created to ensure after-hour staffing and availability. This duty will be offered to 3 individuals year-round and split between highway, water, sewer, and stormwater. As far as staffing, I request that one of the seasonal parks positions becomes full-time under this budget. Historically, these roles have been staffed from March 1st through December 31st, with the occasional need to return over the winter months to remove Christmas decorations and 1 employee plows for the DPW currently. Recently, a capital request was approved for the addition of a second 4x4 parks vehicle with a plow. This vehicle would be utilized to allow both roles to perform winter operations for FY25. And then the basic, our annual road funding for construction is well below what is needed. Town-wide was estimated to be 35 million, and the study completed in early 2018 to catch up with our road system and get ahead of the deterioration. This line item should change in the range of $1 to $3 million. So obviously, we are moving forward with roadway construction. Trying to get any potential for grant funding, things of that nature, but obviously, roadway improvements are needed. So with that, the first item that I have is the tree warden. This is in the general fund 1000-294 tree warden. Notable increases to this account, you'll find GL 52400 for professional services. The increase on this is to incorporate tree services that are typically used. An increase from 5 to 10 days at a rate of $3,000 per day. So the total increase on this is $15,000. And there's a slight increase to 52901 for police involvements. Next up, if there are no questions on that one. No. All right, great. All right, next up, we have the highway enterprise. Highway general fund. That's the 1000-422.
Fifteen.
Thank you. You're welcome. This budget reflects an overall increase of 7.8%. New for FY 25, you'll find GL 51127 for permanent personnel plus 4-person. This is split 50% highway and 50% stormwater. In addition to this, new for FY 25, you'll find 51160. This is the DPW on-call. This grand total is 72,000, splits 25% highway, 25% water, 25% sewer, and 25% stormwater. This incorporates 3 employees that would take the on-call responsibility: water, highway, and facilities. This covers evenings, weekends, and holidays, 365 days a year. Increases, you'll find in the salaries: 51130, permanent personnel mechanic 4-person. Again, this is to reflect the newly created 4-person positions. There is an increase. It's not a new position, but there is an increase that's signifying the elevated position and the responsibilities. Additionally, 51131, permanent personnel assistant mechanic. This reflects cost of living and realignment for this position. 51500, this increase reflects the increased wages, the new 4-person roles with overtime, and new minimums for continuations of the working day. Operations, 51120, there's a significant increase due to 215 Depot Streets. This incorporates $300 a month for 12 months for one of the buildings and $250 a month for the other 2 buildings. 52100, there's an addition of 15% from the total of FY 23, and also the addition of 215 Depot admin building. We anticipate electricity on this building to be a little bit higher, especially for heating. It will utilize electric heat pump system. 52110, gas and heating. This was slightly overspent FY 23, so we took the actual, added 5%. And also incorporated 215 Depot Street. The existing building we recently acquired, the last portion of the building on the left, if you will, previously occupied by the landscaper, so incorporating the price to keep that building as well for FY 25. This does not incorporate the office building because, again, this will use a electric heat pump system on that. 52240, equipment maintenance costs and contracts. This incorporates DPW GPS tracking, near map, secure lock, well power, fire alarm monitoring system. This is a lot of realignments. So the only add to this is really the GPS tracking. What I found as I was combing through these budgets were that some of the items were split across various through various budgets, but the GLs were different. So what I'm trying to do with this submittal is actually keep the line item the same, the GL the same across all of the budgets. So I'm trying to make it uniform. If it's being paid out of highway, 52400, it'll be the same 52400 out of water. So that's the addition on these here. So you'll see deductions on the inverse like some of the other items.
So this is you said the 52240, right?
That is correct. Yep.
Okay. So that's why the difference, that's why you explained it between the FY 24 to FY 25?
Correct.
The number correction, okay.
Yep, and so these are part of the increases, and you'll notice on the inverse when I go through the decreases, you'll find those deducted from those accounts as well. 52901, just an adjustment for the current police rates. We multiply that by approximately 1,500 hours. 54072, overstock, stock parts rather. This was overspent FY 23. So we're basing this off of year-to-date spending plus a bit of a buffer. 5407 vehicle fluids. Again, overspent FY 23, using a year-to-date average plus a buffer. This is a result of frequent oil changes and maintenance, which is really a good thing. You know, the mechanics are keeping up with the routine maintenance, making sure our fleet is properly serviced. And last for the increases, I have 54600, the uniforms. What you'll note on the inverse on this one is our safety line item has actually decreased to incorporate high-vis uniforms as part of our offering now. So we have shirts and jackets for the crew that have the town of Bellingham information on them, but it's also high-vis. So when they're on the roadways, they're a bit more safe. So that's where the increase on this is here.
That's great.
Notable decreases in the salaries, the 51122 admin personnel for the general supervisor due to the shift in positions in licensure. 51132, the general laborers, so again, going back to that general 4-person position creation. This is going to reflect their less truck driver operator pipe fitters. And 51140, that has been stormwater. 52200, grounds and building maintenance costs. Again, the realignment, we move secure lock and alarm and the annual generator maintenance to 52400 for proper alignment across various budgets. 52230, office equipment maintenance in contracts / copying. AutoCAD was reduced. We did find that the LT version is more than enough for what we needed before, so we were able to dial that back a little bit. We got a slight decrease there, and we also we moved Nearmap, People GIS, and Syntac to 52240 for proper alignment, again across several budgets. 52592 professional services for outside repairs. The year-to-date average is a bit less than we were previously requesting, and again, this is a result of capital replacement and less repairs, so it's a good thing. 55220 safety equipment and supplies. This is based on a 3-year average, and again, some of those items were shifted into 54600. Now we're incorporating some of these safety items into our uniforms. So we didn't necessarily go down on our safety, but we incorporated it into our uniforms. 54230 motorized equipment. This is just based off the 3-year average. And 54340 paving materials, again, based off the 3-year average. Any questions on any of those?
On the highway, you'll note that we did drop the 53400 contracted highway construction from 467 down to 200. But you'll see the actual in FY 23 was 265. So essentially what happened was fall town meeting, there was excess levy capacity that was put there to bump that up. We'll be doing the same thing in May, bumping that up with available free cash. Hopefully we'll be able to do more than the 267, because I know the road committee's got a couple of projects that they're trying to prioritize, and there's some gaps there. So we'll look to increase that to the greatest extent that we can to try and keep the work going. I know we want to get, I think North Main Street is one of the priorities, and there's some other streets, so we'll look to increase that as well.
Thank you. Any other questions on highway?
I thought you were all
Wrong.
Only 7 more.
done. We don't need to go into the individual account numbers then.
Great, yeah, that was a little bit more involved. Some of them are quite a bit less. Snow and ice, we have next. This is 1000-423, snow and ice.
44.
Oh, 49.
49.
And this is still based off the previous fiscal year.
49.
Okay. Pretty straightforward on this one, just based off the previous fiscal year.
And then, I know the board did go and declare the emergency. Really, it was only 8 line item that was over. And based on this latest run, which is 2/16/24, the cost is 261, so we're doing okay for the year. We're not looking at any major transfer, but again, it's only the third week of February. Certainly March can generate some problems, but the good news is it doesn't look like we're gonna have an enormous hit barring, with snowy months.
Just a discussion on snow and ice. For years, we went with a static number. Why are we making an increase in fiscal 25?
283,
We're going,
yeah, you're right, we bumped that
we're
up.
bumping up
by,
an 8% increase for a number that we don't need to increase.
Yep, it's good point. I don't know if there's a
I mean, we're
rationale.
going to spend it, but why do we have to put it built in unless we're looking at like a 5-year average or the lowest of the past 5 years?
I'm sorry, which one was that, Mike?
The
Snow
snow
and
and ice, I think you increased it because of the anticipated increase, maybe in the.
John, do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, since we're going into deficit spending anyways,
No, it's a good point.
do you have a preference? Would you rather see it more actuals?
I don't know what tab you're at.
Oh, so snow and ice. So,
39. Go to
no, it's, you know, it's not even just looking at the number, just a philosophical thing. I mean, since we know that we might spend 500,000 and make up the difference, does it really matter if we increase the fiscal 25 amount?
At one time, I believe it was $100,000.
Yeah.
If you had a major catastrophe storm,
It was an emergency.
it was an emergency, but the state would also help you reimburse everything over that
Yep.
$100,000.
I remember it was like 6-7 years ago, maybe longer, that we were at that number, and we said, well, why aren't we at least going to what was the lowest spend rate for the previous decade?
So this is snow and ice.
Yes.
So I had the same issue many years ago, and I raised that issue, and at one point I was told that there's an exception for this budget
Yes.
item in the town where if there's a large snowstorm, the town could go ahead and spend what it had to clear the roads and do what it had to do without prior approval.
Yeah, that's state law.
And it ended right there. So it didn't need a budget amendment approval or anything. So that's how it was explained to me. So that's why I've not questioned it, with the expectation that you budget X and depending on the weather, it could be X plus 500,000.
I mean,
The only thing.
the philosophical thing.
Yeah,
It's
the
not
only
a
thing I
hard
would
number.
say is that you're kind of fooling yourself if you don't at least budget. You know, we did 261 incrementally increasing it, no cost go up, we're gonna have to make it up.
Yeah.
And if we truly do have a tight year financially, to make that up in May could be a problem. You know, and if you don't make it up on May, what you have to do is make it up when you set the tax rate in November. So then essentially, maybe you have to cut some things that you've appropriated money for in order to make it up. So it really doesn't hurt to increase it by tiny increments. You know, so that you're not leaving yourself in a position, like, let's say we dropped it to $100,000.
I'm not suggesting we
Yeah.
do that. It's just like,
Yeah.
was there a need to go up 8% instead of like, you know, call it 275,000 and call it a day? 'Cause
Sometimes it's easier to take little tiny nibbles
Yeah.
as we go along rather than one great big one, and, but you're right, it's.
It's just a philosophical
Yeah.
discussion where we have FinCom here as to where they feel the number.
I know that in the past, we had $100,000, and then there was the mechanism, I can remember we had to do this, where we actually had to meet quickly in.
We voted at our last meeting to approve it, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think back when we were talking about this years ago, other towns did the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
We're not using,
No,
okay, yeah, I just wanted to point that out, so everybody.
yeah.
And I think probably Dennis is right, but I think the intention was, we know that we're never gonna spend below this number, so why not go to that number so that at least when it happens, because most of these storms happen where you get hit with something and you can say, okay, this is gonna drive me to the brink. Yeah. And the next one's gonna take care of it, it's gonna get me over, so it gives you an opportunity.
We've never been in a position where we've spent less than what's budgeted because we always buy enough salt to put in the shed at the end of the year.
That was one of the comments that was made, with the expectation that before the end of the year, we would refill sand and salt.
Yeah, right, yeah, okay. Next up, Jesse.
So I guess I have one question moving forward. Do we want to remain the same? Just keep
Yeah,
this
we keep it-
process?
Yeah, just keep it the same because you're gonna buy the salt anyway, right? Is that what you just said?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they buy at the end.
Yeah, just, you know, you never know. I mean, you know, it's we live in New England, you know. the next day.
Oh, yeah.
You might get a 2 minutes, you know, 10 days from now, and it's it.
St. Patty's Day was April
Yeah.
Fool's was.
Right, yeah.
I know. I mean, I understand the concern, you know, it's, and the question, Mr. Connors was saying that, but, you know, I kind of agree with that, what Dennis said too, you know, it's, little increments, you know, at least keep it nice and steady, you know, it's, you don't have to have an emergency meeting if something comes down, and then, you know, it's, you just basically rush in and just try to get it done. It's all done.
This is one cost center where it would be helpful to see the actual expense for every year for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So we can see what we're talking about, and obviously it's dependent upon.
Yeah.
the weather. That would be,
Yeah, oddly enough, the sand and salt contract, because it's big, we've had years where it's dropped to $22 per ton, and then it's some god awful $60 we've had years, I think.
that's right, I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
But it would be helpful to see the actual expense
Yeah, absolutely. And,
or a perspective for people who are not really familiar with it. I don't deal with it every day.
right.
What's next, Justin?
Okay, next we have, gas and diesel. $1,000-426.
What's the
Is
tab?
that the tab 20?
I go by tabs.
I'm sorry,
But-
I don't.
No, I know you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's why I didn't jump in.
You got the little book, not the big. book.
Yeah, exactly. Apologies.
Okay.
All right, so this is a pretty straightforward equation. We just multiply the gallons we historically use by a figure that we're using right now. 41,000 gallons for gas times $3.80 per gallon. In diesel, we're using $4.20 per gallon times 16,000 gallons. Is how we come to those figures. Gas and oil being a bit volatile, you know, as far as historically the prices were higher, they dropped. It's kind of an unknown.
So all the vehicles that have gas cards, right?
Yes, to some degree. So this
But,
is
but the police goes to fill up on unleaded. They're going to a gas station.
correct.
But if you use the card, are you not paying the state taxes on that gas?
Correct. There's no tax for municipalities.
So if that's the case, why are we at 380 when gas right now is significantly below 380?
But we are paying the tax. We pay the tax on, we pay the pump price, right?
Right.
We're paying the pump price, but I know what you're saying
I
right
thought
now.
the state program, we were exempt from paying the
No,
taxes.
No, we get, it's not a state program, it's just well, it is kind of, it tells us what the cheapest gas in town is for, every day. It comes into the DPW and they put out an email saying, you know, Rapid's got the lowest, and most communities that don't have, their own pump, you know, do that, so. 380 is obviously aggressive, but it protects us against
okay.
a spike or whatever.
Could we get our own pumps?
We had them and we paid, dig them out.
You just get them done.
John?
Pretty sure there's isn't there a process where the town, when you pull into the gas station, you pay the state tax, but don't we get it back? Doesn't the town get it back from the state?
We get it back from the state.
I didn't want to speak over you, but I believe that is.
So to your point, we do get the state tax back.
Right.
We do not get back the federal. tax.
Right.
That's what it is, right?
Yeah, right.
So
Thank you.
who files for the refund? Is it the CFO's office? Is it the DPW director? What's the mechanism to get that money back?
That's a
Because
good
I don't want to
question.
fall through the cracks.
Yeah,
That's a great question.
Yep. We'll get back.
We'll have to get back to you on that one.
There's your answer. I've heard some mechanisms where if you go to certain stations, you can actually make the deal with them. And they will sell you the gas less the state price, it's the state tax, and they file for it.
I think I asked that question years ago, and that's what I was told, that there are certain gas stations that have the capability to not charge you the state tax at the time you fill up.
We'll double check on that, because obviously, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, I believe through the program that we have, the WEX Connect program, It's an automatic, like a monthly reimbursement on the tax portion of it, but I can certainly.
So somehow it's gonna be in the accounting records in the.
It is, correct, yes, yeah, I don't have those records with me, but yes, absolutely.
Okay, Jesse, before you come before the finance committee.
Yep.
We want an answer to that.
Yeah, absolutely,
So-
not a problem.
If we find out that we haven't been getting the money back for the past 5 years, could somebody find out how to go and get all that money?
Yeah.
I think we are though, as Jesse said, it sounds like the web connects, I mean, obviously we got some transition here with new DPW director and a new CFO, so it's something that we definitely want to get the answer to.
So right now, does every vehicle have a gas card?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
aside from the
So
diesels.
that would account for, so like for this athletic department, I have cards for the bus, and you have to put in the mileage.
Exactly.
That's correct.
And using that card, I believe, is the trigger to pay the lower rates. But I just wanted to make sure that everyone is using the gas.
So we have a whole reporting system, so everybody has to keep the receipts to their cards. This is gas, not diesel.
Yeah,
So there's a whole report generated. Paula, down at
Paula Saliba.
Yeah.
Jesse's office, she, she keeps track of all that and, you know, when everybody has to have a receipt, so the receipts go in. I don't know if the tax is getting deducted off of that through the program prior or, and how it's being calculated, but Paula could probably,
So that makes sense. There must be a specific card the state has access to and they refund the state.
Because every
tax.
card is
Yeah.
linked to the mileage of that
Based upon
vehicle, so
that
you can
card.
see it progress
You know,
higher.
I thought I remember hearing that if somebody got caught using that card to fill up their own car, that's a serious issue for that person because of the state tax being.
I mean, using the buses that we have as the example, they know that if I was at 14,000 miles and I jumped, you know, next time it's 14,3, 14,6, they know they proportion it to the
It
price.
has to be automated through the card, otherwise it would be a horror show to do the work. every
Absolutely.
day.
That is my understanding on this whole thing. It happens, I believe it's an automatic mechanism. I have never requested it.
So how many gallons of gas does the town purchase per year?
So this number is actually just for the general fund. The enterprise funds have additional gas and oil, but for this account, gasoline alone, we anticipate 41,000 gallons.
So it's 41,000 gallons times whatever the state tax rate is for gas. I don't know that off the top of my head.
All right, we've got 4 different theories here on how we get the money.
You'll get your answer.
We'll get your answer.
Let's make sure we get the money.
Yeah, you're right.
How?
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, I think it's gonna be less. than-
Looks like we get it, but we don't know how we get it.
Gallons.
That's about 8 cents a
8
gallon.
cents a gallon. It's not $100,000. Okay.
What's up next, Jesse?
All right, thank you. Up next, I have cemetery. Apologize, I don't have the tab numbers, but it's.
Yeah, we have, I was holding it.
Yeah.
Just to move things along, I don't think there's gonna be an issue with cemetery.
Don't hear any complaints.
Cemetery's number 10.
Yeah. Next.
Next, all right,
And I mean, we've all gone through these. I mean, nothing stood out to me when I looked at them.
People are behind them now.
No, when I went through it, I brought all my questions to them. so.
excellent, okay, great. Next up, I have parks. This will be the last of the general funds.
What is it?
Parks
Park and
Department.
Rec.
Number
38.
Thank you.
We were able to work the full-time position into that. Yeah, bridged up the couple of months that person was collecting, obviously was self-insured for unemployment, so it only made sense to bridge up those couple of months, and it's a lower rate than what our DPW laborers make, but still will be somebody that would work in the DPW in the winter months.
In the winter months, that is correct. Yeah.
Let's get Joe.
I have a question. We've got a highway, we have a Parks 4 person. How come it's not in here?
We could move that. I mean, they're both out of the general fund.
I understand that, but I mean.
It should be there. Right?
The
We have
rationale,
like $38,000 for Parks four person, but it's not listed on the Parks.
so if I could, as far as the funding, so that position was paid for out of DPW. Historically, there was no parks funding for it. So to move that truck driver, operator, pipe fitter, I pulled from the same general fund, but it came from highway as opposed to parks.
So you put it in under the name Parks Fork.
Correct. So if
Yeah, but you know what, Joe, I think you're right, 'cause we had a meeting just this week about the breakup of parks and what is done on Blackstone Street.
Yeah.
And Jesse has to roll some numbers in, so I think when he meets with you, I think we make that change and then we incorporate the changes that we talked about on Friday. Cause they're not in this book. There's no sense in talking about the parks right now until you get to the next phase. That's
Alright,
okay with everyone. All right.
yeah, and so I'll move that over,
Yeah.
so we'll see a further reduction on the highway
Bless
budget.
you.
You'll update how we go.
Yep.
Next.
Okay, great, sorry about that. Next up, we have water. This is the 0200 450, and again, it's on.
It's safe to say that trash, water, sewer, and, what's the, stormwater, thank you, are gonna be part of the bigger discussion that we have as far as allocating to the residents.
That you need as far as the study that's underway. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly gonna be something that's visited once the consultant's done. Any idea when that study is gonna be finished?
Yeah, so it's underway currently. I don't have an estimated time frame on when it's going to be done. I think one of the biggest hurdles right now is the PFAS treatment facility and what the actual number is going to be for that. Our OPM is projecting higher numbers than we originally anticipated. However, we're kind of refining where we're at right now between the OPM and the design engineers.
I know he's talking toward us, John. Did you get the?
I have a hard time.
Yeah, no, so the,
It is
The
hard to hear
biggest-
someone up here.
I should be sitting.
yeah,
You should be up here.
so a complete study of all of the enterprise funds is underway. And that increases in what the residents pay for those services is expected. One of the hurdles is PFAS, which looks to be in the tens of millions of dollars as the wild card. But everything else, trash and everything else will likely have nominal increases rolling out sometime in the July 1 to January 1st timeframe of 24-25.
What's the purpose of the study?
It's been a long time since we reviewed the rates and we are getting to the point where payments by residents are not going to cover costs. And we are at the point where we need to raise rates.
Okay, so it basically is gonna be assessing what we have and comparing it.
So what's in here
Towns do.
has to be rolled out to the residents and determine, what discounts the seniors get and what those costs are. Whether we need to adjust the capital reserves that we put out there, the goals of $1 million. And we can do all of that except the PFAS requirements, which scares the hell out of us.
So it's financial based.
Yes.
Yes.
It's not gonna be, here's what the costs are gonna be known and the consultant is rolling them up. So whatever's in here, we're going to have to charge this as part of the billing.
I have a question. With the PFAS, what we have to do to make it right, we're talking multi-millions of dollars. Why wouldn't we fund that as a debt exclusion, so it has a time expiration? And based on your water bill, you would pay whatever it is towards that debt.
I think it's reasonable. The only side of that, if you put it into the water, there's a lot of large scale businesses that aren't using a lot of water. So I think the mechanism to ensure how it gets paid, whether it's,
Between residential.
how do you
and
want
business.
Amazon to pay for it? Based on their actual water use or based on the size of their properties?
Well, to be fair, it should be on actual water use.
Life isn't always
Oh,
fair.
it's gotta be
If
fair.
life were fair, we wouldn't have a split tax rate.
I can understand the split tax rate, but I mean, on the water, it's what you use.
Well, everyone has the capital charge too. So if you
I
do
know
the
you-
capital
yeah.
charge based on square footage and then you use our usage, those are all good discussions that I think we're gonna have to have.
Because grandma and grandpa aren't using, the percentage of water that a guy with six kids is using.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And, yeah, on the other side.
No, I agree with that point. Yes. So I guess my question is, do we need to go through every enterprise fund knowing that that's coming?
Yeah, it's up to the board, but there are no rate increases required to support the budget as it's presented. We did have, retained earnings from each of those enterprises this past year, so it's not like we're approving a budget that doesn't have the
Enough
ability
funding.
to cover it
Yeah.
with the existing rates. The rate study will show us, where we're at and what we need to do to sustain or to provide for the increases that will come down the road with the PFAS. I think sewer is close, trash, I know we're comfortable with the rates as they are now. We haven't had a rate increase in trash since I think 2014 and 2015. So you know,
I mean, from my perspective, the capital charge is more beneficial when we're digging up a road and we're doing projects that are roadwork based, that we have those funds to replace water and sewer pipes if they're 80 years old or 100 years old. And again,
Now, tanks and filtration systems are part of the capital. Yeah. Well, back to that exclusion for that stuff.
Yep.
And what is the impact, Jesse, if I may, with the increased number of apartments and buildings and homes? Do we have enough well capacity to take care of that, or we're gonna have to build another well?
So we're actually currently in the process of designing and permitting another well as it stands. The question is gonna come more towards what we're permitted to withdraw at this time.
And that's dictated by the state too, the amount we can withdraw. I mean, we could probably withdraw a lot more. But the state won't allow you to, which,
I think where Joe was going is, you know, it's costing the town money. It costs everybody money for some of these additional projects.
right,
Yes.
So if you create that
That was one of the
when, sorry.
questions, I'm sorry, and it's actually Jesse had a great explanation at the MBTA meeting we had. And Jesse had a great breakdown, and it's where we at, how much water we basically were allowed to get it out of the Charles River Basin last 5 years. Is that what he gave, Jesse?
Yeah, there was a breakdown
Yeah,
of
there
what
was a
we're using.
breakdown with the numbers. So to Ann's point, it's obviously, we can only get certain amount of water and allocated for us. Is that the?
Yes, we're only permitted to withdraw so much water, because it does have an impact on our downstream neighbors, for example. So what we pull out of Bellingham's Blackstone River Basin, would impact anybody downstream of that, so.
Well, I know a two-person home like myself, and my wife use 9,000 gallons of water.
Mhm.
And you got apartments that have two people in them, times 200,
Yes.
okay? And now there's another proposal off of, South Maple to put 164, and I know that the governor has come out with the,
oh yeah, the great bill.
MBTA, but you know, Milton's standing up to that.
Yep.
And more communities have to stand up to that and say, no.
Well, I think you have to think about that because I'm totally against it, but then, police and fire. They're gonna be punished for it by taking their grants away. And that's the first thing they did to Milton, was take away all those grants that are there to help them. So now we have to figure out how do we proceed by absolutely not wanting this? Do we just overlay it and pray to God we never ever have to build it?
Well,
The
And
minute,
put it up on the Woodsocket Golf Course.
my
That's
point is,
right.
these guys have already been permitted to build, what, 8 houses, 10 houses? Yeah. Why do we want to go back and change? The state wants this, yeah, okay, the next project, we'll look at it.
Yeah.
We only right now have to designate an area by December 31st.
Okay,
So we don't have to do
Yeah.
any construction. And when people ask me about it, it's kind of like the strip club in Bellingham. If you want to build one, it's on Williams Way, zone for it, but it's never gonna go there. No, like, yeah.
And no liquor license.
I think we need to put KP a lot of work and have them find a way around, because what the governor's doing is not I don't think it's legal.
I think it's
wrong.
absolutely absurd that she's blackmailing the cities and towns.
And
We're
she
near
can't
an
even give us the
MBTA.
courtey of an answer to our letter.
Yeah,
quite
I mean,
frankly,
I have a whole lot I could say.
I think the administrator's office should be in touch with other communities around there that are affected by this and say, hey, let's say no, let's go to court. We'll split the cost of what it takes to go to court. to throw out this governor's proposal that
And
mandates.
you know what? It's the legislature. Let's remember, it came under Governor Charlie Baker. And it was the legislature that voted the law in. It's not, actually, it's not Maura Healy, it's
I don't care,
Baker
but I
and
don't
it's
care
the
which governor
legislature.
said it.
But she is enforcing
Her and the
it,
Attorney General.
but the legislature is the one that voted for
Yeah.
it. So, you know, they should take a good look at it and redo it.
We have a right to take a stand, and I think there's a lot of other communities that are in this MBTA district that have the same philosophy that, hey, we're getting this rammed down our throats. It's a state mandate and we're not getting any funding to implement.
But the builders are getting funding for building.
Well, listen, the only person making money in this town right now are your developers and your real estate agents. Let's
I
face
mean,
it.
what's the impact for these 750 units gonna be on you?
I mean, there's several things to consider
Yeah.
between water, sewer, roadways, infrastructure itself, so.
Our fire department is staffed to 2013 levels. Think, you know, our police department is just getting staffed. We can't manage this. The schools are busting at the seams. What impact's gonna be on the schools?
Really? Why did we tear down the Macy's school?
Yeah, the school, the schools are actually low in it thing.
Yeah.
I'm worried about what the impact of something like this would be on our public safety.
These are families, 750 families here. They're gonna have.
I mean, now they're gonna have kids, but look, we got all these other things that have got kids coming too. I mean, eventually, yeah, I agree with you, but right this moment, we're okay.
You
But
got,
the public safety is not.
Can I make it, can I make it actually, I would like to highlight something in regard that actually what the committee is doing at the moment. It just basically be trying to gather all the information.
Yeah.
And once we do it, put everything in it, and then after that, you know, it's we can come up with some kind of good idea. It's like Mr. Connor just mentioned that, you know, just try to designate an area. And I think there are some ways around it and then designate an area. And then we'll be in compliance. And then we don't have to go through the process that Milton had just went through.
Yeah.
So there are some ways to work around it, and then hopefully we'll find a common ground on that. And we don't have to deal like, you know, it's some kind of punishments, you know, like if Milton is facing at the
It's
moment.
awful.
But it's,
important
I think we
thing
need,
to
I
do to
mean,
community.
you designate an area, especially when it comes to housing, in this town, somebody's gonna build on it. I mean, the strip club is one thing.
this is the.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying it's just anything like that is one thing, but you're talking about property. Somebody is gonna see money somewhere. And they're going to develop it, and it's gonna be I think anything like that is gonna be detrimental to this town. Absolutely, it's gonna decimate our water supplies, it's gonna really destroy our fire department. Because look at the medicals now that we see coming out with the call runs, and now you're gonna be adding 750 units, it's gonna destroy our fire department with zero incentives for us. You know, Chief Miller just said, we need a third fire station. We're looking at, because we can't get staffing, you know, we gotta look at the proposal of just hiring paramedics to maintain the calls. You know, I think we need, again, put KP Law to work and find a way around it.
Yeah, I will say that the committee's doing a good job. We have had KP Law join us. We've got a consultant that Amy Sutherland got a grant for to work with us. So
Yeah.
the meetings have been good and you know, they are Zoom. So a lot of good conversation. I think it's going in the right direction to try and address some of the issues and do as much as we can to minimize what the impacts are, because I know they're substantial.
I think we're gonna find a right way to do it. It's just, you know, we put all the pieces together. I think it's, when Jesse talked about it, as well as we listened to both chiefs, it was a kind of eye opener, and I think, you know, it's, we're gonna find a way to deal with. I'll just leave it at the moment.
Yeah, and I'll say that one of the reasons we waited, we got criticized for waiting as long as we did to start moving this, is because we talked about it a year and a half ago. Let's see what everybody else does.
Yeah.
Why do we want to jump to be the first ones to look at reasons? So that's exactly what's happening. We saw what Milton does. There are some other communities that are having concerns, and we'll be able to work off of best practices from other towns.
The other thing that's really getting me is that we sent an invitation.
Yeah.
And she's blowing us off.
Yeah, and Rep. Soda was at our last meeting, and he did say, Sahan, what he said was that she is not going to respond.
She's not gonna respond, and it's,
Is what he told us.
and then also, you know, it's,
Well, I want my.
Governor Baker, you know, it's, what he proposed, and then what the current governor is doing is actually, it's like a two different thing. And basically, that's what the issue is.
You know, she's not gonna respond, but, you know, maybe when election comes around, we don't respond to her.
Well, we have a person who's a legislator from our community. Have him file a bill to rescind that.
He did say that, you know, he wants to look to do that.
And go to the next year, probably, that's what that's what they shooting for. Because originally, what the bill, proposed, what the, Governor Baker, actually, Mr. Soto was here, he explained that, the whole bill was actually presented, had a different idea with governor administration than what it is with the current administration. And, obviously, you know, so we go in different directions in this conversation, but it's a subcommittee, and it's we doing our due diligence, put all the pieces together. And I think that, coming to the next year, you know, so they might propose a different, bill as well. And hopefully, you know.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I run this by you? Looking at it from Beacon Hill's point of view, we've got realtors and builders, well represented, right?
Yep.
Where's the municipal association or whatever our lobbying arm is? What are they doing?
They've been working hard on it. Yeah, I mean, they recognize the impact it has. They've been working on their lobbying efforts to try to get extensions to try and ease the impact. You know, there's 167 communities out of 351 that are impacted, and they're all members of the Mass Municipal Association, so they're getting an earful. The association is, you know, and that's what they are, basically, it's a lobbying group on our behalf.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, next up, we have sewer enterprise.
You can do about the
I honestly think that knowing where we're at, unless you guys had questions.
I had none for any of them.
Anything from FinCom that on the enterprise accounts?
You'll see them when they present it to the finance committee.
Yes, yeah. Not to slow down the process, but I'll keep this guy going.
All right.
That's a good one.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for everything.
I know we can't be busy all week, you know.
I gotta say, your crews are doing a great job.
Great, great.
This winter,
Roads were awesome.
this winter, the roads, I mean, granted,
So I just have a general question, and interest in FinCom's, any input you had, so. When I met with Heidi and Dennis, we talked about the bans and whether we had any obligations to refinance anything. And then my separate question is whether the various allocations to the trust counts, so the rainy day funds, anything that we should just bring up while we're all here to talk about those.
As far as putting money into them.
Yeah.
We will want to do that with the available free cash that we have. As we said, we had about $2 million for current year, so I think the wise thing to do is to beef up the health insurance account, make sure that we're doing well, but we know in the past that we're self-insured, so there are ups and downs.
And those are opportunities that we would take at the November town meeting,
Yep.
once we have.
They are, but we'll be able to do it in May because we didn't, as you know, spend anywhere near all of the free cash of about $2 million. So what we want to do is look at the roads and look at the trust funds in May with that.
And
At least that'll be the recommendation.
Is there any capital items that are gonna surprise you to come up in May?
Not surprised, what you know, the cruises for
Yep.
the police department, we know we wanted to put them in the budget, but you see the budget is tight. We do have available free cash, which is typically how we would fund those. They're about a year out. I know Chief Miller has talked about his pumper. That is probably a year and a half out, that we would be looking at. So those are the capital items that we would see.
So despite the fall being the typical capital cycle, we're gonna have some capital in May.
Yeah.
I had a question, inquire, why isn't Chief Miller here today?
He did his presentation to the board separately because it was so lengthy. It was no,
You see somebody from capital, see somebody from finance. They never even notified he was gonna do his presentation.
It's the first I've heard of it.
First I heard of it.
Yeah, so obviously the chief will be, fire chief obviously be coming before to
Oh, yeah.
present his budget, so.
And another question I have, when we built the police station, I was on the committee. And Mike Solo, I think, was the chairman at the time. And I told him then, I said, Mike, you gotta build for the future. You can't build for today. So here we are.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, can we go up? And let building support a second floor. So we can put locker rooms upstairs that'll free space downstairs for other operations.
Good question.
Well, yeah, they,
That would be question probably.
yeah, they do have funds,
There's a possibility of design, but really, I mean, they have, where their locker rooms are situated right now toward the back of the building. They have an area that, cost effectively, they could add on easily because it connects to it and there's space on the ground. Could you go up? Yeah, you most certainly could, but the
Well,
expense of it.
And when we were in discussions of the design of that building, I asked that question, can we go up if we have to?
So he asked me to come down to take a look at it and, he said, not the chief, but, one of the lieutenants said, well, what about putting a second floor on this area here? I said, yeah, okay, you can do that. First of all, it's a truss roof. So it's pretty extensive, but the issue is, so I said, okay, so a second floor in this section, where are you gonna put the stairs? The stairway's
Well,
gonna eat up this
you
huge
eliminate the
area.
downstairs locker room for the woman, you put it upstairs, you make it the size you need. You make enough locker rooms for what the expected build out is on the Greater Boston Council then, I mean, when I built, not big enough, when I built the one in Rentham, we went 50 years
I'm
out,
not sure.
maximum population, and we had more than enough to take care of it forever. Over here, we were
Probably a little bit.
penny wise and pound foolish.
Just the way we build a lot of our buildings.
Well, it's a shame,
Yeah,
because now we gotta go back and then we have a second
Then
expense.
you get more than you, then you got more than.
Then you need an elevator, yeah. I mean, I think he was trying to take the easy, the path of least resistance.
Yeah, that's the
where-
problem.
Yeah.
So we're gonna build for,
Well, he's hiring.
We do a lot of that in this town.
They're hiring an architect now to take a look at it and, they're gonna guide them toward.
well, who's ever gonna guide them should mention that and ask that question, can we go up if we have to?
It's a
Because
great
it give
idea.
us more room to do the right thing.
It might be the better idea.
Yeah, it may be, it's just a much bigger ticket item, but what makes sense, right way to go, yeah.
Thank you everyone for attending. We have some housekeeping items under other business that we also have to address.
Would the administrative piece for the community development block grant to community opportunity group, it is fully funded within that $1.4 million grant that we have. Community opportunity group's been working with us since the mid-80s, and they're one of the few firms in the state that do this type of administrative work. It was competitively bid, and the pricing is determined within the grant. So and it's based on the number of units, housing rehab units that they do. So we would like to award the community development block grant administration piece to Community Opportunities Group at the rate approved by the state fully funded within the grant.
So a motion. Oh, that is the motion. So
Yeah, so moved.
a second.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion needed? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Next, Dennis.
Was there one other item on?
So we have the memo of understanding for the paramedic program. Do we need to take a vote for
It's
that?
just to authorize the chairman to sign that. It's the presentation that Chief Miller made
Yeah.
that allows him to hire paramedics.
I'll make a motion to approve
Second.
the signature of our chairman
Yeah, for the paramedic.
for the paramedic program.
I second.
First and second, all set. Any further? No. Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, 4-0. The third one, Dennis, was the vote to send the amend zoning bylaws.
That's a definition of a livestock and it's in our zoning bylaws, so it's a procedural thing that we need to follow for the Mass General Law and Planning Board. And so they're just sending it to us and we're sending it back to them for review. It's just a procedural thing.
And it's basically to make the board aware of a proposed change.
Okay, so I disagree with it,
Doesn't mean you agree with it. It
No,
just means
no.
that you're following the procedure.
because this makes no sense in the world, because if a chicken lays 6 eggs and they get hatched, because all they're asking to take out is farm animals 6 months or older. Basically, you gotta move anything that gives birth out of your farm.
I don't know, I don't
The
understand.
problem with it, it's not based on chickens really, it's the larger animals that are creating issues because people are having more and more animals on these small, house lots. And they're just creating issues for their neighbors. It's starting to be a real problem.
It's like the goats.
So
isn't
they're
it?
trying to just tidy it up a little bit to try to, rein it in. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't want 6 goats living next door to me. I'd be
No,
pretty
it's
irritated.
creating a problem, it's the waste from the animals,
Yeah.
disturbing, they can have
When
all
does it
these
go into
animals.
effect?
What's that?
How much time do they have to remedy the situation?
I'm not sure about the timing part, but I'm sure they're gonna work with them as far as that goes.
So they just need us to do something?
We just need to,
Wait, no.
make a motion to send it back to the planning board, this
So
article.
moved.
Thank you.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And this
Just
will
gives
go
the
to,
town the ability to regulate it,
and it'll go to town meeting, obviously.
It's gonna go to town meeting, you said?
Yeah, this will be an article on the warrant.
A zoning article, yeah.
Having satisfied our agenda, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none.
Well, you get that Brahma ball, I'm gonna be really upset.
So you too.
You get that Brahma ball, I'm gonna be really upset.